proposed to Halle Berry, but her response surprised everyone. Even after being together for 5 years, she still did not say yes to marriage. Her past has taught her painful lessons about love. After going through 3 failed marriages, she learned things that changed how she sees relationships forever. Today, she pays thousands of dollars every month to 2 different ex-husbands while quietly building a powerful business empire of her own. At 58 years old, she is wealthier, wiser, and more independent than she has ever been. Still, one serious medical mistake once shook her confidence deeply and almost broke her spirit. The real reason she refuses to marry again is closely tied to everything she has lived through and every relationship that left a mark on her heart. Halle Berry was born on August 14, 1966, in Cleveland, Ohio. From the very beginning, her life was shaped by pressure, contrast, and struggle. Her mother, Judith and Hawkins, worked as a psychiatric nurse and had English and German roots. Her father, Jerome Berry, was a hospital attendant with an African-American background. Both of her parents worked at the same hospital, and at first, their life seemed stable. But the reality of being a biracial family in America during that time made their lives more complicated than it should have been. Even as a young child, Halle sensed that her family stood out in ways that were not always kind or welcoming. When Halle was only 4 years old, her parents divorced. She and her older sister, Heidi, went to live with her mother in Oakwood, a mostly white suburb. It was there that Halle truly began to feel different. In school hallways, classrooms, and playgrounds, she was often the only black girl around. The feeling of standing out followed her everywhere. Children noticed a difference, and some used it as a reason to bully her. The teasing and cruelty began early and returned again and again. Each painful experience forced her to grow tougher, even when all she wanted was to feel accepted and safe. Her mother worked hard as a single parent, doing everything she could to protect her daughters and give them a stable life. Still, the outside world constantly reminded Halle that she did not quite belong. While she tried to stay strong, the pain of being treated as an outsider slowly settled inside her. That sense of not fitting in would later influence how she saw herself, her worth, and her relationships. Behind closed doors, her childhood was even more painful. Halle was just 5 years old when she witnessed domestic violence for the first time. The man who was supposed to protect her family became the source of fear. She watched her father physically abuse her mother again and again. There were moments so violent that her mother could barely stand afterward. Once, her mother was kicked down the stairs. Another time, a wine bottle struck her head. Halle remembered hiding in fear while her sister sometimes tried to step in and protect their mother. The terror of those moments stayed with her long after the violence ended. That trauma settled deep inside her and followed her into adulthood, shaping her fears, her choices, and her hopes. As she grew older, Halle admitted that she sometimes found herself drawn into abusive relationships, almost repeating the patterns she had seen as a child. Even so, she held tightly to a dream of having a peaceful and loving family. She wanted stability, warmth, and safety, things she never fully experienced growing up. That dream pushed her forward, even when reality kept falling short. At Bedford High School, Halle learned how to survive by excelling. She became an honor student, edited the school newspaper, cheered at games, and was crowned prom queen. To others, it looked like everything came easily to her, but the truth was very different. She worked extremely hard and pushed herself constantly. She believed that success and achievement might help her blend in and earn respect. For a while, it worked well enough to open new doors. After graduating, she enrolled at Cuyahoga Community College to study broadcast journalism. For some time, she imagined herself working behind a news desk, telling stories in a calm and professional voice. But something inside her began to change. She realized she did not want to simply report on other people's lives. She wanted to live her own story fully. That realization led her toward pageants, modeling, and acting, where confidence was just as important as skill. Her difficult childhood had already taught her how to fight for space in the world. Now, she was ready to fight for her career. Her life changed quickly when she was 17 years old. In 1985, she won the Miss Teen All-American pageant representing Ohio. At that time, it was a rare achievement for a black teenager. The win placed her in a spotlight she had never experienced before. Just 1 year later, in 1986, she became Miss Ohio USA and then finished as the first runner-up at Miss USA. That same year, she represented the United States at the Miss World pageant and placed 6th overall. She became the first African-American woman to represent the country at that competition. Judges gave her the highest interview score at Miss USA, and suddenly, doors began opening everywhere. Pageants gave her visibility and a voice in spaces she once believed were closed to her. They also showed other young black women that they belonged there too. However, success did not erase struggle. After her pageant achievements, Halle moved to Chicago and later to New York City to chase modeling and acting opportunities. She was only 18 years old when she ran out of money in New York. With nowhere else to go, she ended up sleeping in a homeless shelter and later at a YMCA. Her mother refused to send her money, telling her it was time to learn how to stand on her own. That decision was painful but life-changing. Halle later said that moment forced her to grow up fast. She took any job she could find, waiting tables, bartending, and attending auditions with almost nothing in her pocket except hope. Racism made the journey even harder, but each setback added to her strength. Slowly, she built resilience that would support her through every stage of her career. Her first real acting opportunity came in 1989 with a television sitcom called Living Dolls. The show only lasted for 13 episodes, but it was enough to show producers that she had talent, timing, and presence. Her character, Emily Franklin, helped casting directors see her as more than a model. When the show ended, she did not disappear. She continued auditioning and taking small roles that gradually moved her forward. Living Dolls may have seemed small at the time, but it helped establish her as someone worth remembering. Her first major film role came in 1991 when director Spike Lee cast her in Jungle Fever. She played Vivian, a woman struggling with crack addiction. To prove she could handle such a serious role, she stopped wearing makeup, avoided washing, and walked into auditions looking completely broken. At first, Spike Lee doubted her. But when she returned fully committed to the character, he changed his mind. The film was released on June 7, 1991, and critics immediately noticed her performance. That role shattered the image of her as just a pretty face and revealed her depth as an actress. In 1992, she starred in Boomerang alongside Eddie Murphy. She played Angela Lewis, a warm and grounded character that audiences instantly connected with. While other characters were glamorous and bold, Halle's performance felt real and relatable. Boomerang became a cultural hit, earning more than $71 million worldwide. It helped secure her place in Hollywood and change how romantic leads of black actresses were viewed in the 1990s. She continued choosing meaningful roles. In Losing Isaiah in 1995, she played a mother battling addiction who gave up her child. The film explored complex topics like race, motherhood, and adoption. Critics praised her fearless performance, even though the movie was not a box office hit. Then, in 1999, she delivered one of her most powerful performances in the HBO film introducing Dorothy Dandridge. She portrayed the first black actress ever nominated for a Best Actress Oscar. The role earned her both a Golden Globe and an Emmy. More importantly, she felt she was honoring a woman whose story had been overlooked for far too long. By the end of the 1990s, Halle Berry had become impossible to ignore. She consistently chose roles that required honesty, courage, and transformation. She challenged the limits placed on black actresses and proved that complex, emotional stories belonged to them as well. Her success was not quick or easy. It was built on pain, risk, and determination shaped by a difficult childhood. In 2001, she took on one of the most challenging roles of her career in Monsters Ball. The character demanded raw emotion and exposed deep pain and grief. Many people warned her not to take the role, but she believed in telling stories that mattered. When she won the Academy Award for Best Actress in 2002, she made history as the first black woman to win in that category. Through tears, she dedicated the moment to women of color who had been overlooked for generations. That victory marked not just a career milestone, but the result of a lifetime of struggle, resilience, and courage. Even that historic celebration carried a strange and heavy feeling. As of 2025, no other black woman has matched that Academy Award achievement. Her win still stands alone, shining brightly but also feeling lonely. She did receive other major honors for the same role, including a BAFTA, a Golden Globe, and a Screen Actors Guild Award. Yet the meaning of that Oscar kept growing with time. Each passing year made the silence around it louder. While the world praised her success, another powerful chapter of her career was quietly taking shape. In 2000, she stepped into the role of Storm in X-Men, appearing with white hair, calm confidence, and quiet authority. Audiences around the world saw something rare, a black woman controlling the weather, leading with strength instead of standing in the background. At that time, superhero films almost never gave women of color powerful roles. Her presence alone shifted how people viewed what was possible. She returned as Storm in X2 in 2003 and again in 2006, when her character stepped forward after Cyclops died and helped guide the team through chaos. Years later, in 2014, she returned once more in Days of Future Past. This time, Storm was older, wiser, and fighting in a broken world until her final breath. Halle once said she understood Storm deeply because she herself had often felt unseen in Hollywood. Critics sometimes wish the films had given Storm more screen time, but audiences around the world held tightly to her image. That character helped open doors that had once been firmly closed. Soon after, she created another unforgettable pop culture moment. In 2002, she appeared as Jinx Johnson in Die Another Day. When she rode from the ocean wearing an orange bikini, the scene instantly reminded people of Ursula Andress and became one of the most replayed moments in James Bond history. Producers loved her as a new kind of Bond woman, someone who fought back and led instead of simply supporting the hero. While the movie itself did not receive strong critical praise, her performance stood out so much that studios even discussed giving her character a spin-off film. It never happened, but she later said she felt grateful to be part of such a legendary franchise that had lasted across generations. Then came a sudden and painful fall. In July 2004, Catwoman was released with a budget of around $100 million. Expectations were high, especially since an Oscar winner was leading the film. Instead, the movie opened at number 3 at the box office and quickly dropped. By the time it left theaters, it had earned only about $82 million worldwide, not enough to cover its cost. Critics were harsh, and audiences mocked it openly. Rotten Tomatoes gave it an extremely low score, and the reaction shook her career in ways few people expected. She had reached the highest point in Hollywood, yet one failure turned into a shadow that followed her for years. What she did next surprised almost everyone. In February 2005, she attended the Golden Raspberry Awards in person to accept her Razzie for Worst Actress. She walked on stage holding her Oscar in one hand and the Razzie in the other. She joked through her speech, saying they could never take her Oscar away no matter how badly they thought she had acted. The moment made headlines everywhere. Later, she even joked that she burned the Razzie. Instead of hiding from embarrassment, she faced it directly. That honesty became a different kind of strength. Even so, the backlash did not disappear. Hollywood began treating her differently. After making history in 2002, she suddenly found herself being offered mostly thrillers instead of serious, award-worthy dramas. Films like Gothika and Perfect Stranger followed, but the prestige roles slowed down. Industry rumors suggested she was now considered a risk. She watched white actresses survive box office failures and bounce back with ease, while she had to fight harder for every opportunity. She later spoke openly about how black actresses are often not allowed more than one failure before doors begin closing. For many executives, Catwoman became an excuse to hesitate whenever her name was mentioned. The unfairness of it lingered for years. Rather than letting the setback defeat her, she chose to use it as fuel. She knew her value and began speaking out about equal treatment. She pushed for better pay, stronger roles, and more diversity in casting. Her career became an example of how quickly Hollywood can lift someone up and just as quickly shut them out, especially when that person is a woman of color. Even years later, some executives still pointed to Catwoman as a warning, showing how deeply rooted bias remains in the industry. Despite the weight on her shoulders, she leaned even harder into physically demanding roles. She returned as Storm again in 2006 and 2014, proving she still belonged in major franchises. Then, in 2019, she shocked audiences with a performance in John Wick, Chapter 3. At 52 years old, she trained 5 days a week for up to 90 minutes per session. Her preparation included jiu-jitsu, weapons training, and working closely with trained dogs. She jumped rope hundreds of times a day and pushed through intense physical drills until her body ached. During filming, she broke 3 ribs but refused to stop. Her character fought aggressively and took real hits that many actors avoid. The dedication earned her deep respect across the industry. As she grew older, she realized she wanted more control over her work. In 2021, she signed a major deal with Netflix to produce and star in new projects. She wanted stories that showed women of color as layered, complex, and real. She wanted to create opportunities she herself had been denied. Standing alongside powerful producers like Reese Witherspoon and Viola Davis, she stepped into a new level of influence. That journey led to Bruised. She directed it, produced it, and starred in it, committing fully to the project. She was 54 years old and trained 4 to 5 hours a day to play a mixed martial arts fighter who had lost a direction in life. The film premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival before being released on Netflix. She reshaped the story to focus on a middle-aged black woman because she believed those stories deserved to be told. She later said she ran down a hallway shouting that she would direct the film because no one else understood its heart the way she did. The process pushed her emotionally and physically and became one of the hardest challenges of her life. Bruised marked a powerful turning point. It allowed her to take ownership of her story at last. It gave her space to speak openly about aging, resilience, and second chances. It showed a body that had lived, struggled, and survived. Instead of hiding time and experience, she embraced them. Through it all, she proved that strength does not fade with age and that control over one's narrative can be the most powerful victory of all. It allowed her to finally express what it feels like to be pushed aside and still keep going no matter how heavy things become. The story spoke to people who rarely see themselves reflected honestly on screen. Many viewers felt understood through the pain, struggle, and strength her character carried. The film proved that she could still surprise Hollywood and audiences around the world. Instead of fading away, she showed that she still had stories worth telling and power worth respecting. After that success, something even bigger followed. Netflix signed her to a multi-picture deal, signaling that she was once again a major global draw. She starred in The Union and began preparing for another action project alongside Angelina Jolie called Maud vs. Ma. Streaming platforms saw her as someone who could connect with audiences across cultures and countries. She was no longer limited by the old rules of Hollywood. She had become someone who could move freely across borders, genres, and generations. Halle Berry entered her first marriage in January 1993, and for a short time, it seemed like everything in her life was falling into place. Her career was rising quickly, and her husband, baseball star David Justice, was thriving in his own world. From the outside, they looked like a powerful couple. But behind closed doors, distance began to grow. Halle spent long months away filming movies, while David later admitted he struggled with being married to a woman who did not fit the traditional image of a stay-at-home wife. They had only dated for 5 months before getting married, so their relationship never had a strong foundation. By February 1996, they separated, and what followed was painful and confusing. Halle later alleged that domestic violence occurred during that time and filed a restraining order. She eventually revealed that she lost about 80% of the hearing in one ear due to a violent incident. She never publicly named who caused the injury, and David Justice has always denied being responsible. That silence left unanswered questions and emotional scars. It became one of those stories without a clear ending, but with lasting pain. Years later, she tried marriage again. In 2001, she married R&B singer Eric Benet. At first, she believed deeply in their connection and hoped this relationship would be different. But cracks soon appeared. In 2002, Eric entered rehab for sex addiction, encouraged by Halle's mother, who wanted to help save the marriage. The situation became public, and the media turned it into entertainment. Tabloids mocked the situation, and even late-night talk shows joked about it. While the world laughed, Halle was breaking inside. She later discovered that Eric had been unfaithful throughout their marriage. The betrayal, combined with the public humiliation, pushed her into a deep emotional collapse. By 2005, the marriage was over. Halle later said she never truly believed he was a sex addict and felt that label was simply used to excuse repeated betrayal. That experience left her more guarded and less trusting than ever before. After the divorce, she began a relationship with model Gabriel Aubrey. For a while, life softened. Their daughter, Nola, was born in 2008, and Halle felt a sense of peace she had long been searching for. But by 2010, the relationship ended, and what followed was a long and bitter custody battle. In 2012, Halle wanted to move to France with Nola to live with her then-fiancé Olivier Martinez. Gabriel opposed the move, and the court sided with him. As a result, Halle was ordered to pay $16,000 a month in child support. She believed much of that money went toward Gabriel's lifestyle rather than their daughter's needs. Tensions increased when Halle accused him of making racially insensitive comments about Nola. The legal battles dragged on for years. In 2021, the child support payments were finally reduced to $8,000 a month, but the emotional damage remained. The tension exploded publicly on Thanksgiving in 2012. That morning, Gabriel and Olivier Martinez got into a physical fight outside Halle's home. Paparazzi captured everything. Gabriel appeared in court afterward with visible bruises, and restraining orders were issued. The chaos spilled into Halle's third marriage. She and Olivier eventually married, but even that relationship was filled with conflict. Their marriage ended in 2015, yet the divorce process lasted until 2023. The court ordered Halle to pay Olivier around $8,000 a month in child support, along with a percentage of any income she earned over $2 million. Olivier depended on those payments, which meant Halle had to keep working constantly, even when she felt exhausted. She had no choice but to keep earning and pushing forward. In 2024, she filed for sole custody of their son, stating that Olivier was aggressive, uncooperative, and refused to participate in co-parenting therapy. As the disputes continued, judges began leaning more in her favor. Still, the emotional toll was heavy. Then came something she never expected. In 2022, at the age of 54, she woke up with severe vaginal pain after being intimate with her boyfriend Van Hunt. Thinking it might be an infection, she went straight to her doctor. The diagnosis shocked her. The doctor told her it was the worst case of herpes he had ever seen. Halle was stunned. Both she and Van Hunt tested negative. She knew immediately that something was wrong. She began researching her symptoms and discovered they matched perimenopause, a stage that can cause dryness, pain, and irregular cycles. In 2024, she shared this experience publicly at the Propel Daily Summit alongside First Lady Jill Biden. It became clear that her misdiagnosis was far from rare. Only about 20% of OBGYNs in the United States receive formal training on menopause. Millions of women suffer because of this lack of education. Realizing this, Halle decided to take action. By early 2025, she transformed her wellness brand Respin into Respin Health. It became a full menopause support platform rather than just a lifestyle brand. She invested millions of her own money and partnered with Clar Ventures to build a national service. The platform uses more than 150 data points to create personalized monthly plans for women. It offers private communities, expert sessions, and direct access to menopause specialists. By March 2025, Respin Health had already helped over 50,000 women across the country and continued to grow rapidly. Halle said she wanted women to feel reborn, not erased. That belief pushed her into public advocacy. At the New York Times Deal Book Summit in December 2025, she openly criticized Gavin Newsom, saying he should not be president because he vetoed a bipartisan bill that would have expanded menopause coverage. He had vetoed similar bills twice, claiming they would raise health care costs. Halle and other advocates argued the bill had already been revised to address those concerns. While his team praised her passion, no new legislation followed, and the fight continued. Halle kept pointing out how women in midlife are often ignored. She spoke from personal experience when she said menopause is not an ending but a new beginning. At 58, she relaunched her career, her business, and her voice. She reminded the public that only 3% of leading roles in Hollywood go to women over 50. In 2024, she traveled to Washington, D.C., pushing for more research funding and education programs. Her misdiagnosis became part of medical discussions, proving that one woman willing to speak openly could challenge an entire system. In May 2025, she joined the competition jury at the Cannes Film Festival, becoming one of the few black women in the festival's long history to hold that position. She spent 10 days judging 21 films alongside other respected artists. She called it one of the highlights of her career and said her decades in acting allowed her to see story from unique perspectives. Her presence brought a fresh energy to the festival and helped open doors for voices that had long been overlooked. She also faced a lighter moment of drama at Cannes. She had planned to wear a dramatic gown with a long sweeping train, but new festival rules banned overly large designs. At the last minute, she switched to a different dress and laughed it off, saying she respected the rules. Even with a change, she still captured attention on the red carpet. Just days earlier, she returned to the Met Gala for the first time in nearly 10 years. She wore a sheer gown covered in detailed beadwork, paired with a cropped tuxedo jacket and a diamond necklace. The look took over 1,000 hours to create, and people talked about it for days. At 58, she showed the world she still had confidence, presence, and power. Through all of this, she maintained a steady relationship with Van Hunt. They met in 2020 through a mutual friend, and had been together for 5 years by 2025. He proposed, but she did not give a clear answer. Her past marriages taught her caution. She said she did not need a ring to prove love. While she admitted marriage was possible someday, those close to them said he loved her deeply. With him, she appeared calm, supported, and understood. Their relationship felt different from the storms she had survived before. By 2025, Halle Berry was no longer just a famous actress or star from the past. She had become an advocate for women who feel invisible. She spoke openly about age, race, and how society tries to shrink women as they grow older. She built a platform to educate, support, and empower. She called this phase of her life a rebirth, a moment of self-definition, and proof that power can grow stronger with time instead of fading away.